In a world drowning in distractions, most people live at the mercy of impulse. They chase dopamine over discipline, comfort over character. But Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, saw things differently. He didn't just preach self-discipline, he lived it while commanding an empire. His journal, Meditations, written not for an audience but for his own soul, remains a timeless manual for inner mastery. Stoicism doesn't teach us to kill emotion, it teaches us to govern it. It doesn't ask us to deny desire, it shows us how to rule over it. Self-discipline, in the Stoic tradition, is not some rigid denial of joy. It is the art of choosing what matters most over what is tempting now. It is the muscle that makes clarity possible in chaos. And perhaps most importantly, it is the gatekeeper of freedom. Because let's be clear, you are not free if your moods control you, if your phone dictates your focus, or if cravings determine your choices. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That is the essence of Stoic self-discipline, not to suppress life, but to direct it with unwavering will. In this video, we'll explore how Marcus Aurelius forged an unshakable core of discipline, not through motivational fluff, but through rigorous thought, daily practice, and hard-earned wisdom. If you're tired of letting life pull you in 100 directions, if you're ready to reclaim control over your mind, your time, and your actions, this Stoic path is where that journey begins. 1. The discipline of action, doing what must be done without excuse. Once you've trained your perception to see clearly, Stoicism demands that you act not impulsively, not emotionally, but decisively. Marcus Aurelius believed that philosophy was not for idle thought, but for right action. In Meditations he writes, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do." Here, Marcus doesn't offer comfort, he issues a call to arms. A Stoic does not wait for motivation. A Stoic moves because it is the right thing to do. Discipline is not a matter of how we feel. It is about what is required. The obstacle is not fatigue or boredom or fear. The obstacle is our indulgence in those feelings. And that indulgence must be denied. Marcus reminds us, your duty is your purpose. You don't shrink from it. You don't complain about it. You rise to meet it. Whether it's completing your work, confronting a difficult conversation, or resisting a temptation, Stoic discipline commands that we perform our role fully, faithfully, and with excellence. Not for applause, not for reward, but because that is what virtue demands. The world today sells productivity hacks and dopamine tricks. Stoicism offers none of that. Instead, it gives you a mirror and asks, are you doing what needs to be done? Not what's comfortable, not what's fun, what's necessary. And when you fall short, as we all do, it doesn't excuse weakness. It challenges you to return stronger. As Marcus wrote, when jarred, unavoidably, by circumstance, revert at once to yourself, and don't lose the rhythm more than you must. That's the Stoic approach. Stumble, correct, move forward. Discipline in this sense is not perfection, it is commitment. It is showing up for your duty again and again, especially when it's hardest. And it is through this repeated action, often mundane, often thankless, that greatness is quietly built. 2. The false friend facade. Why Stoic discipline requires boundaries. Not every threat to your discipline comes dressed as chaos. Some come disguised as charm. One of the most insidious obstacles to self-mastery is the illusion of friendship. What this video calls the false friend facade. It's a mask worn by those who don't seek your growth, but your weakness. And it's a test every disciplined mind must learn to see through. From the Stoic perspective, true friendship is a rare and sacred thing built slowly, founded on shared values, and proven over time. But the false friend appears suddenly, intensely. They come not to share your burdens, but to study them. They ask questions that seem caring about your schedule, your struggles, your dreams, but beneath the surface, they are mapping your vulnerabilities. Marcus Aurelius warned against trusting appearances. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So be careful what thoughts you entertain and from whom they come. In other words, guard your mind and your circle." The false friend doesn't rush into your life because they care. They rush in because they want access to your trust, your private world, your weaknesses. They mirror your emotions, echo your language, even share stories of their own pain, not out of solidarity, but strategy. And what feels like connection is often a tactic of control. This is why Stoic discipline is not just about inner strength, it is also about discernment, the strength to say no, to slow things down, to question motives. A Stoic does not confuse kindness with blind trust. He knows that speed in relationships often conceals intention, that emotional closeness without earned history is a red flag, not a blessing. Seneca put it plainly, "Before you entrust someone with your confidence, test their character." That testing is a Stoic's shield. Because when betrayal comes from someone you welcomed too quickly, the damage is not just emotional, it's strategic. It derails your focus, fractures your peace, and erodes your ability to act with clarity. The disciplined life requires boundaries, firm, intentional ones, not out of fear but wisdom. You are not cold for protecting your peace. You are not distant for being careful. You are practicing the Stoic virtue of prudence, the mother of all discipline. So when someone suddenly wants deep access to your life, when their interest feels too intense, too personal, too soon, pause. Slow the rhythm, guard your world, because in Stoicism, trust is not something given freely, it is something earned slowly, and only by those who prove they deserve to hold it. 3. The patient predator. Why Stoic discipline must outlast manipulation. There is a form of threat more dangerous than anger, more enduring than envy, and far more difficult to detect than overt hatred. It is not loud, it is not messy, it is patient. The Stoics knew that our greatest enemy is rarely chaos, it is subtlety, and in the realm of relationships, manipulation and betrayal, there is no enemy more insidious than the patient predator. This person does not strike in rage, they do not speak with venom or make threats in the open. Instead, they operate in silence, timing and trust. They can wait not days but years, while slowly constructing the perfect moment to exploit your weakest hour. And that is what makes them terrifying. Not what they do, but how long they are willing to wait to do it. From the outside, they seem generous, helpful, harmless. They remember your birthday. They offer to help with errands. They are dependable, almost too dependable. They may be a neighbor, a co-worker, a distant family member. And the illusion they build is carefully curated. You can trust me, not because they've earned it. Marcus Aurelius warned of this psychological trap. He wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." The patient predator reverses this wisdom. They pretend to be something long enough that you forget to ask what they truly are. They do not rely on strength, they rely on your blindness, and worse, on your desire to believe in their goodness. This is where Stoic discipline becomes not just a tool, but a shield. You must cultivate long-term awareness, not just short-term reactions. You must learn to trust patterns over promises, behaviors over words. The Stoic path teaches that truth does not announce itself in speeches. It reveals itself slowly, through consistency. And so does deception. The patient predator studies you while you sleepwalk through routine. They ask about your vacation dates, your habits, your fears, not to connect but to collect. They memorize your circle of friends. They build rapport with people close to you. Every favor, every casual offer of help is logged, not for generosity but for leverage. You think they are watching out for you when in truth they are watching you. And by the time they act, your guard is down. You've told them things no one else knows. You've given them access to your privacy, to your space, even your schedule. The strike isn't loud, it's surgical. They wait for your weakest moment, when you're sick, distracted, alone. That's when the mask falls. But here's what the Stoics offer in response. Discipline is not just about routine, it's about watchfulness. Self-command is not only about resisting cravings, but also resisting delusion. You must not fall asleep simply because the air is calm. You must stay awake even when nothing seems wrong, especially when nothing seems wrong. As Epictetus taught, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them, and our opinions can be manipulated if we fail to examine them. So how does one protect against the patient predator? Be slow to trust those who move too fast. Guard your schedule like you guard your values. Share less than you want to, not because of fear, but because of wisdom. Keep your support system strong and diverse, so no single person becomes your sole lifeline. And most importantly, develop a habit of reflection, daily, quietly, honestly. The Stoic is not paranoid, he is prepared. He does not live in fear of betrayal, but he respects its reality, and because of this, he outlasts the deceivers. While they scheme in secret, he builds a fortress within, anchored in clarity, not comfort. The patient predator plays the long game, but the disciplined Stoic is the long game. 4. Escalating aggression. Why discipline requires the courage to confront subtle threats. Stoic self-discipline is often mistaken for passive endurance, an ability to stay calm no matter what happens. But the truth is sharper. Discipline also demands the courage to name the threat, to confront the shadow before it becomes a storm. And nowhere is this more vital than when facing what this lesson calls escalating aggression. It rarely begins as violence. No, those who wish to test your boundaries don't kick the door down. They tap the glass first. They use humor laced with venom, jokes that feel off but are said with a smile. I could kill you right now, followed by laughter. Or, you're lucky I like you. These are not harmless slips, they are tests. Psychological probes, designed to measure your fear, your tolerance, your silence. Marcus Aurelius did not ignore subtle warning signs. He wrote, "You must build your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." What does that mean here? It means you don't wait until someone crosses every line to take them seriously. Stoic strength isn't reactive, it's preemptive. You observe, you reflect, and when necessary, you act. Take the case from the video. A woman named Leah who ignored strange behaviors from a neighbor because they didn't look dangerous. His jokes were just awkward, his presence just coincidental, until the day she found a hunting knife laid neatly at her door. By then, it was almost too late. Stoicism teaches us not to panic, but neither to dismiss. Seneca said, "He who is forewarned is forearmed." Escalating aggression thrives on one thing, your inaction. The predator relies on your hope that it's probably nothing, on your fear of looking paranoid, on your habit of giving people the benefit of the doubt, especially when they don't deserve it. That's why discipline isn't just about saying no to comfort, it's also about saying yes to vigilance. It's the commitment to observe behavior honestly, trust your gut, and take small actions early before small warnings become major crises. In your life, escalating aggression might not be a knife. It could be a colleague who pushes boundaries, a partner who tests limits through sarcasm and control, a friend who masks manipulation as humor. The Stoic response is not to attack nor to shrink, but to stand, to see clearly, to set the boundary, and if needed, to walk away with dignity intact. Discipline is not just about stoically absorbing discomfort. It's about discerning what that discomfort means. It's about refusing to normalize toxic patterns just because they come disguised in politeness. Marcus Aurelius would tell you, the impediment to action advances action. The red flag is not an annoyance, it's the signal. Your duty is to respond. In this way, Stoic discipline becomes more than personal strength. It becomes protection for your time, your mind, your life. Not just from obvious enemies, but from subtle, escalating forces that grow when left unchecked. The earlier you confront them, the stronger you remain. 5. The silent observer. When self-discipline begins with discernment. Not all threats to your peace come with noise. Some arrive wrapped in stillness. You won't hear them coming. You won't feel the sting at first. Because the most dangerous disruptions to your discipline are not the obvious battles, they are the subtle intrusions. The glances that linger too long, the stranger who appears too often, the friend who knows too much too soon. This is the domain of the silent observer. In today's hyper-connected world, surveillance doesn't require a trench coat or binoculars. It requires attention to patterns, digital breadcrumbs, and your own lack of vigilance. There are people who don't confront you directly. Instead, they collect you, your habits, your haunts, your hesitations. And the more predictable you are, the easier it becomes for them to silently infiltrate your life. Marcus Aurelius taught, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." But how can you stand firm against a storm you don't even realize is forming? This is where Stoic self-discipline begins, not with effort, but with awareness, discernment. A disciplined life isn't just about saying no to temptations or pushing through challenges. It's also about having the clarity to see what doesn't belong, even when it wears a mask of normalcy. Consider this. Someone starts showing up at the same coffee shop, always at the same time. They appear at your gym, your park, your grocery store, each time with a smile, each time with a coincidence. They know things they shouldn't, ask questions that seem too tailored, and because nothing is overtly hostile, you dismiss the pattern. "I'm overthinking, it's probably nothing." But Marcus would disagree. He would remind you that the mind is not just a temple, it is also a watchtower. He would say that dismissing your instincts is not humility, it's negligence. When your peace is consistently unsettled by someone's presence, that is not paranoia, that is a call for vigilance. There's a reason Stoics trained themselves to observe without being overwhelmed. They knew that the world often speaks in whispers before it screams, that real threats often hide behind politeness, that disruption begins not with a crash, but with a pattern that goes unchallenged. Discipline in this case means tracking your own discomfort, naming what feels off, not just emotionally but strategically. If someone seems to anticipate your movements, if their presence mirrors your routines a little too perfectly, it's time to stop explaining it away. The disciplined mind protects not only its time and energy, but its awareness. It recognizes when coincidence becomes pattern, when pattern becomes strategy, when strategy becomes control. And it doesn't react with panic, it responds with poise, distance, clarity. A Stoic doesn't need a confrontation to take action. He adjusts the pattern. He changes his rhythm. He strengthens his perimeter, not to live in fear, but to preserve focus. Because the true danger of the silent observer isn't just what they see, it's what you stop seeing. when you begin to excuse what unsettles you, when you begin to question your own clarity, when your mental space becomes invaded, even subtly, your discipline begins to erode, not through chaos, but through quiet compromise. To walk the Stoic path, you must become the observer of the observer. You must protect the sanctity of your schedule, your spaces, your spirit. You must treat intuition as an ally, not an error. Marcus Aurelius built his discipline not by ignoring the world, but by seeing it for what it is, layer by layer, without illusion. So if someone shows up in your life again and again without cause, take notice, not with fear, but with resolve, because discipline begins in the mind, and the disciplined mind does not tolerate invisible threats. Self-discipline is not a punishment, it is a form of power, not the kind that conquers others, but the kind that masters the self. And in a world that rewards shortcuts, distraction, and emotional chaos, choosing the Stoic path is a revolutionary act. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations to impress anyone. He wrote it to remind himself day after day to live with clarity, restraint, and courage. He ruled an empire, but more importantly, he ruled his own mind. That is the mark of true strength. So, what have we learned? That clarity of perception is the beginning of discipline. That voluntary hardship is not suffering but training. That false friendships must be met with wise boundaries. That escalating threats demand calm, proactive action. And that patience, when misused, can become a predator cloaked in trust. You are not here to live on autopilot. You are here to become a fortress of reason in a storm of noise. To live like Marcus did, not perfectly, but purposefully. So here's your challenge. Starting today, choose one area of your life and bring it under your command. Cut one indulgence, observe one subtle pattern, set one boundary, keep one promise to yourself, and repeat it daily, quietly, relentlessly. Because the man who practices discipline in private becomes unshakable in public. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who's ready to take back control, not just of their habits, but of their whole life. And remember, you don't have to be an emperor to live like one. Subscribe for more Stoic lessons that sharpen the mind and fortify the soul. And until next time, stand tall, stay grounded, and lead yourself first.